Hey guys, it's Nicholas here, aka Enmatice on Head-Fi. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I am going to tell you about and show you how to use the Dayton Audio IMM-6. This is a calibrated microphone that you can hook up to, an Android or iOS smartphone or tablet and measure in-ear monitors to generate a frequency response curve. And once you have the frequency response curve, you can compare them against each other. So, for instance, if you've got a new in-ear monitor and you want to see what the frequency response curve looks like compared to your old in-ear monitor, you can hook them both up to the IMM-6, one after the other, take the measurements, generate the curves, overlay them against each other, normalized at 1 kilohertz, and see what the differences are. It's really easy, and it's really cool. So, let's get right to it. Here is the box for the Dayton IMM-6. It's been sitting in front of your eyes there for a minute or two. You can see the top of it. It just tells a little bit about what it is. If I flip it over to the back here, alright, now you can see the specs for it. Right, basically it's just it's a microphone, it's an omnidirectional microphone, and I'll show you how I use it because, just looking at the picture there, you can probably tell it's not going to be good to use that with an in-ear monitor just shoved up right against it. You're not going to get any kind of accurate measurements, so I will show you my rig in just a second. And the other thing I'm going to point out on here is just down at the bottom of the case, you can see those numbers there. Those are serial numbers. And before you get rolling with your setup, head on over to the Dayton Audio website and go to the IMM-6 page. There'll be a little text box there that you can put your serial number into and download a calibration file that is specific to your IMM-6. Once you have that, you can load it up into your iOS or Android app that you're going to use to generate the FR curves, and it will apply all of those calibration corrections to your measurements. So you're getting as accurate measurement as you possibly can out of this device. One caveat obviously is this is not a pro rig. This is just for quick and dirty frequency response curves. So don't go into this thinking you're going to generate the same frequency response curves that anybody else will, but you will be generating frequency response curves that you can rely on for comparative analysis of the in-ear monitors. And by that I mean you are going to be comparing curves generated with your own device, so you can rely on them. At least in my experience, you can rely on those to compare data that you generate against old data that you generate, so new data against old data. And I think that's about all you can expect out of something like this. It's only $25 on Amazon. It's Amazon Prime ready, so you can get it in just a couple days if you order it off of Amazon. I'll put a link to that in the notes below. And I have no affiliation with Dayton whatsoever. I went and purchased this on my own, and I've been using it for about a year now. And I just thought I'd like to share it with you. All right, I am going to cut away for a minute. I'm going to get my Dayton mic and show you how I have it set up. So I will be right back once I've got my Dayton mic. All right, I'm back with the Dayton IMM-6. Pretty simple device. Here's where you plug it into your iOS or Android device. There's a split. Here is where you will plug in your in-ear monitor. And up here is where you have the microphone. I took a piece of PVC tubing left over from my old brewing days and used some electrical tape to affix that over the end of the microphone so that I would create a coupler. This is very similar to the type of tubing that they use inside multi-BA monitors to get the sound from the BA monitor up into your canal. So it's kind of like acoustic tubing. And then I think you can see right inside there, that is where the microphone is. So very simple device, easy to make. Just have to buy the IMM-6, get a very short length, maybe inch and a half of PVC tubing, slip it over the microphone, affix it with electrical tape, and you are ready to rock and roll. All right, I'm going to hook it up to my iPhone. I will be right back. All right, I am back. I've got the Dayton IMM-6 hooked up to this old iPhone 5C my daughter used to have. It's a little beat up and worse for the wear, but I kept it around because I really like the Audtiotools iOS app for generating the frequency response curves. There is a very similarly named app for Android called Audiotool. I've just found it's not quite as feature rich and easy to use as the Audtiotools app, so that's why I've stuck with iOS, even though I'm an Android switcher. Yes, that's right. I went from iOS to Android and I couldn't be happier, but for this one app, I really like the iOS app, so I stick with the iPhone for just this purpose. And you can see I have everything set up and ready to go. So the Dayton IMM-6 is plugged into the iPhone, and then I have the in-ear monitor plugged into the IMM-6, and I have coupled the in-ear monitor right up here at the tubing. You can see it's got just the stock silicone tip on the in-ear monitor. This is actually that Meza 12 Classics. I like this. I've talked about it before, so I'll show you how to generate a frequency response curve for this. And one thing to be very careful of when you are taking your measurement is to make sure, if you are using silicone tips, you want to make sure that you don't get a wrinkle that breaks the seal where the silicone tip meets the coupler here. That will give you a very low bass response, just like it would if you broke the seal in your ear. So just make sure, I already looked at this, but I pick it up and I just look all the way around the tube to make sure that I didn't break the seal here when I'm hooking up the in-ear monitor or when I'm seating it inside the coupler. Okay, we're all ready to go. I've got the Audtiotools app right up here, so I'm going to tap it. There you can see it. It's the Audtiotools app by Studio 6, and I will link to that in the notes as well. I'm going to briefly just flip the iPhone, so I change the orientation here. There we go. And so what you're going to do is go into Acoustics, the FFT tool, and there we go. We can see it's generating something. I'm not playing anything through this yet, so it's just picking up external noise. That's why the frequency response looks so whacked out. So pause it, reset your curve, and what you're going to do is make sure it's set up properly, right? So go into the tools. I have it set for just over 16,000 data points. So it's going to get pretty fine-grained resolution. I don't weight it. I just have it set for flat, so I get raw, unweighted data. I'm not normalizing anything yet. You'll see this normalization take over later on. I don't have it on compare mode either. That kind of subtracts out the frequency response curves from one another. I don't find that useful. I like to just see the two, when I compare them, I like to see frequency response curves overlaid on one another. I don't normalize them yet, but you'll see it later. I don't want to average anything. You'll average when you measure the left and right earpiece, and then you can average those together to get the overall average response. And what else? I leave the windowing alone. I leave the overlap alone. The input source, I do tap on that and just make sure that I've got my IMM-6 picked. And before you get measuring, I mentioned before, but go onto the Dayton site, plug in your serial number, download your IMM-6 specific calibration file, and you can load it up into Audiotool or Audtiotools, whichever you're using for Android or iOS. And they have instructions for that on the app's respective site. So just go there. It'll show you how to load up the calibration file. I'm not going to go over that in this video, but once you have that calibration file, then you'll see your microphone. So I've selected it, done. Okay, I don't really worry about anything else. I leave this pretty much alone as far as the values go. The one thing I did, I think, is just make sure it's flat, so I get the flat frequency response and set it for kind of maximum resolution here. Okay, so that's done. And now what I like to do is go here. I make sure this says average. I think it starts out with fast, so you can see in real time exactly how the frequency response curve is altering. That's not very useful for generating the curve. You know, you want a very nice average curve. And set it to play pink noise. You can have all kinds of noise. Pink noise plays 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Everything in that band, in that frequency range, at equivalent volume. So it's kind of like playing a sine sweep over and over again. This just does it all in one audio file. So you get all of the frequencies represented all the time. Helps you build a nice FR curve. Turn that guy on. Get out of your generator. And now we're ready to do some measuring. So now I'll push play and bring it down here, and there you can see it's starting to build our curve. It looks a little ragged at first, and the longer you play it, the smoother the curve gets. It starts averaging out your data points across the frequency range. I let it go for about 30 seconds just so I can make sure that I get a good curve. I think for now this is probably, there we are, about 30 seconds. And then you just pause it, and you can go into the folder. So it's where all your files are. You can see I have a lot of frequency response curves generated. For this one, I already have them, so I'm not going to overwrite the ones that I have. But what I will do is just say, okay, I know that is the narrow bore tip. I like to name mine so that I know what they are. So here we are, the Mezza Classics. This would be with the narrow bore tip, so I can recall that if I want to. And you can see, you know, I might have a little slight variability from run to run seeding it, but it is pretty, pretty spot on across the curve. Okay, and then you can go in if you want to get rid of the curves. You can clear the graphs. If I wanted to name that one, I'll show you what you do. Just go up here and you can tap into the file name box, type in your name, say done. I'll just call it Y or Z for now, so I know where it's at. Done. It asks you if you want to store it. You'd say, yep, store the file. Now I can recall that graph. And so now now you can see I've got a Z over here, and I've got my nice curve. I'm actually going to go in and clear those guys now, and I'm going to go to fast just to get rid of that little box with the average in it, and I will go into tools, and I'm going to select disable audio input, and I'm going to show you how to compare the frequency response graphs against each other. So I'm going to go back to my Mezza 12 Classics that I had in my list. And here we go. I'm going to pull up the left channel. I'm going to pull up the right channel. There you go. You can see just very slight variability. They have really good channel matching, actually. I've seen in-ear monitors with pretty poor channel matching. This could just be slight variation from seating the in-ear monitor a little bit differently, but I mean, this is really good channel matching. And so now that you've seen that, so you can tell at a quick glance whether or not your in-ear monitors have mismatched channels, where they're mismatched. I've seen in-ear monitors with up to 5 decibel mismatch in the bass region. That's pretty common. I've seen some dips in the upper treble. across the two earpieces. That's also pretty common. So that's a nice tool to have. Now that I've got these two against each other, I'm going to average them and show you how you can get an average frequency response for both earpieces. So there we go. Just go in, flip on the average. Now you can see what the average of the two is. That is the basic frequency response curve that I get with my rig for the Meza 12 Classics. And you can name that and save it too. So you can see that I've done that. So you can go in here, and if you want to quickly name something, and you've already taken one curve for it, like Meza 12 Classics, you can just copy the name. There it is. Click at the end. That's what I like to do. And I usually just call them the average. And click done. I'm not going to do that now because I already have the average saved for these. So I'm just going to get out of here. Like, hey, get out. Okay, it's not cooperating. I don't know why. Done. This iPhone is... Anyway, let's call that good for now. I don't know why it won't go out of there. Oh, maybe I'll just do that. Cancel. There we go. Okay, done. There we go. Sorry about that little detour there. In any case, now I've got a average frequency response for this monitor. I'm going to go in and say turn off the average. Done. Clear them. Clear recalled graphs. Boom. And now I'm going to show you. Now remember, for all of this you need to have disabled the audio input so you can compare things. So I'm going to show you what it looks like to go in and say, alright, I want to look at the average for the Meza 12 Classics versus something like the 11, right? Because I just recently looked at both of those. They're pretty close, you know, just a little bit more bass for the 11. The 12 is a slight bit leaner than the 12. Not much though. I mean, you're not going to hear too much of a difference there. They're in the overall sound signature. They're pretty similar. When you actually get them in your ears, though, I know the 12 does sound a little bit leaner and a little more spacious than the 11. The 11 sounds more, a little more intimate, or not congested is not the right word, but it just sounds less spacious. You can throw in something very different from those, you know, if you want to see, I don't know what they look like against, say, the MEEP1, for instance. You know, you can go like with a single flange tip on. You can see that the bass region is fairly similar, but there's some differences over here in the upper mids and treble, most prominent probably being this around the 8 to 10K region, where you see the P1 has more presence. You can throw in something wildly different if you wanted to. I just got these Radius IEM on a kind of little private mini tour. Those guys will look a lot different from these. So let's bring those guys in. There we go. Now you can see what some bass monsters look like. Now you can see these guys have, you know, almost 10 decibels more bass, or more sub bass, you know, kind of going into the lower mids. And then looks fairly similar in the upper region, but it's not going to sound similar. It's going to sound very bass heavy, and the upper end will not sound as emphasized on the Radius due to all that bass presence, as compared with the other ones where you don't have as much bass presence. The upper end sounds much clearer and more detailed. So that was how to compare. I think I showed you right now how to generate the frequency response curves, how to save them, and then how to pull up the left and right channels and average them, save that, and then you can go in and compare those average files against each other for different in-ear monitors. I hope that was helpful, and I'm going to put links to the Dayton IMM-6 and to the Audtiotools iOS app and the Audiotool Android app in the notes for this video. And again, I hope it was useful, and I'll be back soon with some more cool videos for you guys. Probably next thing up will be talking about some of the newer in-ear monitors that I've gotten recently. Until next time, happy listening, guys.